You're listening to the Doc Lounge podcast. This is a place for candid conversations with healthcare industry's top physicians, executives, and thought leaders. This podcast is made possible by Pacific Companies, your trusted advisor in physician recruitment. I am your host, Summer Gilbert, and I am the Director of Marketing and Branding here at Pacific Companies. And today my co-host is our Senior Manager of Business Development here at Pacific Companies, Mr. Blake Christiansen. Today on the podcast, we are doing an Ask the Expert series, and our expert today is Brad Guthrie. Brad is the HR manager for Lapine Community Health Center, and he's going to talk to us today about retaining top talent. This is something that Brad has years of experience with. So today we're going to dive deep into the topic of recruitment and retention in 2020. Let's get started. Hi, Brad. Welcome to the Doc Lounge podcast. We're excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Brad, before we get in the topic of retention, let's talk about recruitment. We're in 2020. There's a lot of talk about a physician shortage. When you approach recruitment, what is your method? What's your ideology? How do you go about it?
So, in my opinion, there's not a shortage. They just don't work for me. They work for that company, that company, that company. All I got to do is go talk to them, tell them they need to come work for us. And some people, they don't know that they want to leave their job. They get in that, they get on the hamster wheel, like I was at Lowe's. You need that kick. As far as provider recruitment for me, you have three types of providers, right? You have those that are in school and graduating soon, so they need a job. So with us as a federally qualified health center, under the National Health Service Corps, we can offer loan repayment. So provider, nurse practitioner, physician assistant, or physician, family medicine, internal medicine comes works here 2 years, loans are forgiven, they're gone, whatever. That does create a backside problem with retention. The next type of provider are those that have already completed their 2 years or paid off their student loans. So that's not a factor for them. They're looking for the quality of life. Because as a provider, you're going to get paid the same amount of money wherever you work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bigger city, you might get more, yes. But if you're working in rural health, everywhere you go, rural health, if it's here in Lapine or Talkeetna, Alaska, or Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, you're going to get paid just about the same amount. And this is my thought that I came across when I was a military recruiter. So there's 4 branches. Everybody gets paid the same amount. It's the lifestyle, quality of life, and your personality that is a best fit. How does it fit you? So when I'm recruiting for a provider, I play the long game. And so it's a cultivation. I'll get back to that in a second. The third type of provider are the sunset providers. Kids are grown, they're retiring, they're looking for the white picket fence, plant the flag, they're done for the career, they're looking to wrap up, maybe not even working full-time, they're wanting to work part-time, something like that. Still a very valuable commodity to have at your health center. They have the knowledge, they have the experience, and they don't take a lot of your payroll. They're looking to not work full-time.
Yeah.
So they can mentor and train new providers. So it's the lifestyle. You're not selling the job. They know what the job is. Everybody knows what the job is. Like I said, when I was in the military, everybody knows they're joining the military. Kind of what job they want to do. So everybody knows what they're going to do. It's a matter of, where do you want to be? What kind of culture? And we have 75 employees here. We're not big, but we're not small. There's some, FQHCs where there's maybe 3-4 providers. We have 12. There's some that have 128 providers. Bigger companies, you get lost in the wash, the mix and everything like that. So you sell the culture, the size, and the location. It's looking for those applicants or those providers that, what is unique to them? So what I do is I social media surf, I pay attention, I look around, college visits, job fairs, kind of look around to see who's doing what. If I see a provider on LinkedIn's, for example, that, you know, their focus is on family medicine and everything, and I notice that they talk a little bit about outdoor stuff. Maybe I'll surf their Facebook, like, oh, okay, they like camping and fishing and kayaking and hiking.
Yeah.
You know, and I always keep an ad open, whether we're hiring or not. I keep an ad open because when you hire a provider, it's a 6-month process at times. So while I'm overstaffed now and I'm not hiring anytime soon, that doesn't mean by next summer I'm not hiring. So that resident in their last year, that sunsetter that's getting ready to drop their pack and put it in for their career, hey, let's talk over the next couple months and let's see what we can come around with, because the current work cycle in the US is about 2.4 years people change jobs. For providers that are not on a student loan repayment, it's still about that much, if not 3 years. So there's still this need to cultivate, talk, build a pipeline. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my peers, a lot of people I've talked to in provider recruitment, I don't know if this is good, bad, or indifferent, but this is how I see it.
So Brad, when you're marketing to these physicians, set the stage for me. Because Lapine is in a beautiful community, so are you relying a lot on the community to sell the practice, or are you relying a lot on the culture? Is it 50-50? What's your method?
So remember, I started off in San Diego.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go.
Come to San Diego, right?
Yeah.
It's sunny San Diego where the sun shines year-round. It never drops below 50 degrees. And it only rains 12 days out of the year. But that's not for everybody. Mm-mm. And yes, I do rely on both the culture and the location. It's not a 50-50. It depends on the person. If I come across somebody like Blake who's got the mountain man beard and the rugged look to him, he's not wanting to work in Seattle, Portland, LA, or San Diego. I can read that off the persona. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of asking those questions and listening.
So what you're saying is you don't like to cast a large net. You like to target and get really granular in your marketing.
Yeah. I'm looking for the people that, one, they would truly enjoy and appreciate this area and take advantage of it. Because if they don't, interviewed somebody once that came from Florida and nothing about outdoors in any conversation, but they wanted to come here. No, you don't. You work 2 years and you're gone. And I use those here and there. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I will take anybody I can if they're wanting to be here. Mm-hmm. Once I understand their lifestyle, it's about the culture. Because, they have to fit. They have to blend in with every provider I have here. And my management and my MAs. If I bring in a provider that doesn't get along with my medical assistants, I have a toxic work environment. I've just trashed half my workforce. Yeah. So they have to be able to blend in. And I do. I spend a lot of time talking to people. As I said, I'm long-winded, and you can probably tell by now. Mm-hmm. And so I make myself available. Here's my cell phone number. Call me. If I'm at a conference in Vegas, walking down the strip, talking to somebody on the phone, hey, let me answer your questions. Let me talk to you.
You mentioned earlier that you get on social media and you kind of look into social media, find out about the candidate, what type of lifestyle they live. I mean, you and I have had not a ton of conversations back and forth, even ourselves, but we say so much about ourselves without even knowing it through pictures
Exactly.
and videos and comments and things. Like, I would not love San Diego. I would much prefer a place like La Pine. And that just from the image of me that you see and how I carry myself. So being able to prepare yourself up front and being ready for that candidate and focusing in on those candidates that fit more is such a wonderful idea. I love that, using social media. Summer is so great at using social media for Pacific companies, even when we're advertising our jobs. So it's so great. I'm curious, we've talked a lot about your methods and the focus on finding that right candidate and trying to recruit them. Now, how do you transition that? I know that everybody's dream in recruitment is to find that candidate who's going to come in young and wants to move to your community and be a part of the family and stay forever and retire and cradle to grave, as you said, you know what I mean? And have that love for the community. How do you then turn the recruited candidate into a family member of the community that just lives and breathes La Pine, or lives and breathes where you're at, and has no desire to ever leave?
So retention, that transition. Um, so there's a movie, Glengarry Glen Ross. I think it's a fantastic recruitment video. Always be closing. So recruitment never stops. Recruitment and retention are the same thing. You're always recruiting. So the transition is, how do I treat my providers? How do I treat my staff, my management team, everybody that works here? Well, I'm a HR department of one. So me all by my onesies, I'm it. Well, if a provider is working and they're expected to see 22 to 24 patients a day on a 10-hour shift, 4 days a week, they're busy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have time for anything else. They certainly don't have time to track down why our benefits company is saying they owe X amount of dollars. They certainly don't have time to track down and figure out how to do the National Health Service Corps loan repayment application, passwords, how this works, how that works, renewing their license, everything like that. So I take it on.
So I really love that. The idea of, if you want them to be a part of the family, treat them like family. You're not just there recruiting them in and then signing your ticket like you're done. You did the recruitment. It continues forever, being a part of their life, understanding who they are and being there for them like you would a sister or a daughter or something like that. Just making sure you're there to help in their time of need and giving them that feel of love and family. I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, and knowing your employees, right? Just because they work here doesn't mean they're going to stay here. Because there's always a recruiter. And if I'm not recruiting them, somebody else is. So if I see somebody's down, like, hey, you want to come back to the office? We can talk. What's going on with you? You get to know everybody. And, after a couple of weeks of working there, you start to learn their personalities, their ins and outs. You know who drinks coffee. So, hey, you got time? Let's go get a cup of coffee real quick. What's going on? Or let's grab a cup of tea or whatever. Let's see what's going on. Or when they're extremely happy, like, whoa, what's going on? What do I need to be a part of?
Yeah.
I make connections throughout the community with the school district, real estate agents. If one of my employees is wanting to buy a house, I'm like, okay, well, hey, here's a couple real estate agents. This one knows about military VA programs. This one knows about public health provider programs, things that can help them out. So on my time that, I don't have anything directly going on, I'm looking up what's important, what can help out, what I can do for everybody. And like you said, Blake, it's a matter of treating them like family.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're saying the common denominator for retention is treating your employees like they are family. So we're almost out of time, but Brad, I have one more question for you. For any hospitals, health systems listening that want to revamp their company culture to help hiring and help retention, what would you say to them?
When you do it, believe in it. People do a lot of talking. Right now it's about diversity, inclusivity, and equity, right? But everybody talks about it. Actually doing it takes a lot of work, and it takes some pain. Changing culture, you're not going to change people's personalities. That's been ingrained since you were 5 years old, and it's who you are developing through your life. But to change your culture, you have to commit to it, and it has to be from the top down and from the bottom up. Whatever the CEO, the president, the chairman, whatever they're talking about, somebody has to get that entry-level employee that just started last week to buy into it, to understand it, and to want it, to start talking from the bottom up. That 18, 19-year-old employee is going to have more influence than your CEO. So you have to take both bookends and have everybody believe in it. If you don't, it's going to fall apart in the middle. And so changing the culture, it can be painful. And it might require getting rid of some employees, and maybe some long tenured employees, or employees that you believe to be your highest performers. I listened to Gary Vaynerchuk once on a podcast, who owns a marketing firm on the East Coast. Get rid of that highest performer if they're killing the culture. You'll make up for it on the back end in the long run. You don't want that one person dragging down the culture. So it's just believing in it and getting buy-in from both ends of the spectrum and coming together in the middle.
Yeah. Great advice, Brad. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today and sharing your knowledge with us. We really appreciate it. It was a pleasure to meet you and get to know you better.
Yeah. Good to meet you too.
Well, have a great rest of your day and enjoy beautiful Oregon.
You too.
Thanks,
Good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to all our listeners. If you'd like to be notified when new episodes air, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And a big thank you to Pacific Companies. Without you guys, this podcast could not be possible. If you would like to be a guest, go to www.pacificcompanies.com. Thank you.